Okay, thank you. Okay, to allow V-shaped billboards, and it prohibited static billboard, and it eliminated the 5-acre requirement that was part of the original ordinance. At that time, it felt that you could still maintain a certain amount of billboards along the freeway without having to adhere to the 5-acre requirement. Subsequent to that, we had developers that were interested in billboards along Interstate 605. And as a result of that, two portions of the 605, okay, yes. Oh, this doesn't work? Okay. So two sections of the 605 were declassified. And it's important to understand what declassified means, because if it's a landscape freeway, according to Caltrans, billboards would not be allowed along landscape freeway. So two portions of the 605 were declassified to allow for billboards. And this is the area in question where it was declassified. But again, it's only this portion of the 605 freeway. Nowhere else along that entire length through the city was declassified. This is the built environment surrounding that the 605 area. It's the area by the self-storage facility between the 605 San Gabriel Freeway and the San Gabriel River. So that's the environment as it exists right now. Just real quickly, there are certain differences between the existing 5 freeway ordinance and the 605. For the differences are the regulations for the 605, that's part of the sign code, and billboards are allowed on the 605 in the M2 zone. It's a permitted use. You do not need a conditional use permit. So that's a big distinction. So instead of a conditional use permit, you still need development plan approval, and there's an operating agreement instead of a development agreement. Because the 605 is different, the height of the billboard is measured from the nearest travel lane, because along the 605 freeway, from the dirt to the freeway itself, the surface area that a car runs on, that's already about 30 feet. So you measure from that up. Okay, so that's a big distinction. And because of residential, within that area, there's a 200 feet separation from habitable residential structures. But that can be reduced to 180 feet if the billboard utilizes the most effective light reducing technology. So the intent is, because it is close to residential, you make sure that no light or glare is transmitted onto that habitable space. And under the existing code, the Planning Commission may approve deviation to allow for exceptional design. One of the critique of the existing billboard requirement is that it does not allow for things that are unusual, things that can be aesthetically pleasing, things that can look very good, but because we're hemmed into this one particular design, that it will not be allowed. But under this provision, deviations will be allowed for exceptional design. Location prohibited. Again, as mentioned, it will not be prohibited within a landscape freeway. It has to be more than 200 feet from the freeway center line. Cannot do encroachment into a public right of way on the roof of a building, projecting over the roof of the building. Some of the same requirements that we have in the 605. Same thing as in the 5, static billboards are prohibited. There's still the 1,000 separation between billboards. The setback remains the same. We still require that the back, the sides must all be screened, and that there's a 50-foot height limit plus 6 feet for architectural elements. And this just illustrates some of the items that were mentioned before. You have the V shape, it's fully screened, there's a single post. And this is one of the billboards that we currently have along the 5 freeway. So the Planning Commission at their previous meeting adopted Resolution 191, 2021, recommended that the City Council adopt Ordinance number 1118. And the recommendation is also that Ordinance number 1118 be introduced by its first reading by title and waive further reading. If there are any questions, I can certainly answer those. We do have at this point 2 proposals for billboards along the 605 freeway. So at some point, those will be coming before you for that operating agreement, whereby we specify the terms of the agreement.
Are we doing an RFP or we're just going to do as what they give out?
So for the ones that are on private property, they would just need to follow this process. But for us, the recommendation the last time, and unless I hear anything differently, would be that we do an RFP for our property. Is that still consistent? Just so that I know, so that I could start that process. I take it as a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a question. With regards, I know that in the past when we've done certain billboard entities, when they built their structures, they didn't follow all of the guidelines. We had to put more pressure on them putting their face, the different infrastructure around it, So are we gonna have guidelines to make sure that they're following and everything is up, the facade around it that they need to have up? Because remember, we had one billboard that was almost a year, 2 years before they even put it up. We had to put pressure on them. So do we have something in place or writing saying this has to be done before they even start looking to, just following just the sequence in general?
Yes, they will need to follow the existing guidelines, but more importantly, unlike in the past where we've allowed a billboard to be energized with the promise that this will be done, that will not be the case anymore. You have to adhere to all the requirements before we allow the billboard to be energized.
That's when they'll have their, the conditional use permit or whatever it may be,
They will have the operating agreement. We could even spell that out as part of the operating agreement, because remember, we dictate the terms of that. But even if it's not in that agreement, the fact that they need our approval for the billboard to be energized, we could withhold that until all of the requirements are met.
I'd also like to say, in reference to what Joe Angel was saying, we had a billboard that was incomplete last year, and we asked the person who was on the 5 freeway, we asked them to complete it, and they said they would. Did they come back and complete that billboard? Do you remember that one?
Yes, all of, and I'm sure that's what Councilmember
Okay.
Zamora was referring to. Yeah, that was quite obvious for everyone, and certainly we've learned from that.
Good, good.
Again, we have 2 pending, so we should be one. So this is the intro of the ordinance, and then it'll be the second reading, and 30 days after that, it becomes law. So we're in a good step in terms of progression. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Okay, public hearing is now open. City Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Mr. Mayor, we have one speaker, Jack Thompson. Good evening, council members. My name is Jack Thompson. I'm with Stadium Properties. We manage the self-storage at the northern location. And I just wanted to voice my support for these billboards. I know there's been some confusion in the past about our position, but we fully support this and would encourage the city to move as rapidly as feasible, considering that time is money in this situation. The sooner they're up and running, the sooner the benefits will start flowing. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. We manage the self-storage on which the property under the 405 freeway.
Rivera Road.
Rivera Road and,
Sorry.
okay,
So this is the balloon track then,
No.
Affectionately,
around there,
yes.
around there. Yeah.
It's known as a lot of things, but that's one of them.
Thank you.
Any
Yeah.
questions?
okay.
Yeah.
No, thank you, Mr. Thompson. Are there any other speakers?
Mr. Mayor, I don't see any more speakers.
Okay, okay, and we will now close public hearing. Is there a motion for the approval of item number 11?
I'll move.
I second.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to call on the city attorney to read the title of the ordinance number 1118.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Santa Fe Springs, amending sections 155.003, 155.051, 155.078, 155.109, 155.153, 155.211, 155.229, 155.259, 155.398, 155.515, 155.516, 155.518, 155.519, 155.524, 155.529, 155.531, and 155.533 to Chapter 155 zoning of Title 15 land use of the Santa Fe Springs Municipal Code relating to billboards.
Would you repeat that? Okay. Thank you, Ivy. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Those opposed? Ordered. Public hearing, item number 12, adoption of mitigated negative declaration. I'd like to call upon Director of Planning, Wayne Morrell, and I understand that there is a recommendation for the continuance of this public hearing. Okay,
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. Staff is recommending that this item be continued to the next meeting.
okay. Okay, is there a motion for the continuance of item number 12 to September 7th? Okay, wait a second.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so ordered. Item number 13, approval of the vending machine agreement between the City of Santa Fe Springs and Joseph Welch of Better For You Vending. I'd like to call upon Parks and Recreation Services Manager Gus Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, honorable council members. Today, we're bringing the renewal of our vending machines agreement to the council for a new 2-year term. So as part of the health and wellness initiative, the city partnered with Healthier For You Vending for 4 vending machines at our city facilities. These machines are located at the activity center, where we have 2 machines. We have one at the GVNC, and then we have one at Town Center Hall. All of these machines are equipped to accept cash, coins, and credit or debit cards. The vending machines have been in city facilities since 2016, and they are all in good operating condition. Excuse me. As this vendor has been in operation or has been in business for 32 years, and the agreement that we're presenting tonight includes obligations of parties, rent and payment, term and condition, insurance, and general provisions. As part of the fiscal impact, the vendor pays the city 5% of the flat gross profit every quarter. This funding is used to support health and wellness related programs and services. Since 2016, the city has collected approximately $3,500 which is the equivalent to about $750 to $1,000 annually. So tonight, our recommendation is to approve a 2-year vending machine agreement with Joseph Welch of Better For You Vending. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I've got one. 5%. And how many machines do we have total between the facilities?
We have 4 machines.
I know that we hit a little bit of a pandemic year, and I'm sure his business suffered. But is there a way to maybe at the end of this 2-year term renegotiate maybe that 5%?
Yeah, we can certainly look at that. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll speak with the vendor. We'll let them know if that's the direction that you'd like to seek. That if we're still content with this vendor after the 2-year agreement, we'll seek additional percentage for the agreement.
All I have. Okay. Is there a motion for the approval of item number 13?
I'll move.
Second? Juanita? Okay, those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? So ordered. Item number 14, approval of volunteer services agreement between the City of Santa Fe Springs and Horgan Coal Enterprises Incorporated, doing business as Coal Vocational Services for fiscal year 2021, 2022. I'd like to call upon Human Services Manager Ed Ramirez.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. So a little background with Oregon Coal Enterprises. They do business as Coal Vocational Services, which is an agency that provides independent living independent living programs and employment services to adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, helping individuals build employment-related skills so they may achieve personal success. Coal Vocational Services has been part of the city's volunteer program since 2014. We have a consistent group that volunteers and helps at the Gus Velasco Neighborhood Center food pantry. And they have also helped in a couple of other events that we've had throughout the years. The city formalized a partnership with Coal Vocational Services in 2018 by adopting a volunteer service agreement, which is here this evening. The agreement is intended to set forth the responsibilities of Coal Vocational Services in providing volunteer services to the city of Santa Fe Springs. For the 2020 and 2021 term, as you know, we did not renew the agreement because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the city facilities closed. With anticipation of volunteer opportunities gradually coming back in the near future, we are requesting the new agreement be approved for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. At this time, we have not identified a specific date, but by approving this evening would be helpful once that date is identified. Under the terms of this agreement, the city will continue to pay for the volunteers' life scan, which is general practice for all our volunteer program. The background checks cost has been budgeted in our volunteer program budget, and there are no other additional fiscal impacts to the budget. So this evening, we are recommending the approval of a 1-year volunteer service agreement between the city of Santa Fe Springs and Oregon Coal Enterprises, Inc., DBA Coal Vocational Services. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions? No. All right. Is there a motion for the approval of item number 14?
I'll move.
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? So ordered. Item number 15, Fitness Court Project at Los Angeles Park. Authorize the purchase of equipment and award the contract. I'd like to call upon Parks and Recreation Services Manager Gus Hernandez.
Once again, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, tonight we're bringing the fitness court project back to the City Council to authorize the purchase order for the equipment and to award installation contract. So at the City Council meeting on April 20th, City Council approved the fitness court project at Los Nietos Park. The site was finalized at the May 2021 meeting. The fitness court is trademarked and owned by National Fitness Campaign. The product cannot be procured from any other organization. The fitness court and each element is manufactured only by National Fitness Campaign, and every aspect, including the functional design of the equipment, the structural engineering, and elements are the property of National Fitness Campaign. So as a background, in order to fully install the fitness court in compliance with and to validate the official fitness court warranty, proper installation requirements include 4 elements. The first is the installation of a concrete slab, which is the specs are provided by NFC. The installation of compatible fitness flooring, which is included in the purchase of the equipment. The installation of compatible fitness flooring, excuse me, I already said that. The assembly and installation of the fitness court equipment, where the materials are provided by NFC, and the application of required signage and vinyl decals. The official installing partner of NFC is Engineered Installation Solutions of Fort Mill, South Carolina. EIS offers services to complete. Thank you. EIS offers services to complete items 2, 3, and 4. And our public works team will perform item number 1 in-house. So as you recall, at the April 20th meeting, we presented the project cost of $266,000 out of the utility users tax. And we just submitted an application to OGALS, which is with the state of California, to get reimbursed for $188,953. So, excuse me. So the project cost breakdown is on the left of your screen, highlighted in the blue. That's what we presented back in April. And today we're asking for, excuse me, for $122,185 to purchase the equipment, which is approximately $7,800 less than what we anticipated for the equipment, and $27,000 for the installation of the equipment, which would come out of the construction line item. That would leave us with $43,000 to pour concrete, reroute irrigation, and take on any additional construction costs. The fitness court impact will provide for exercise equipment at Los Nietos Park that we currently don't have. This equipment will be an additional amenity for the community to stay healthy. So we just received this last week. And so this is a rendering of what the fitness court will look like. This is one of 2 renderings that we received. And this is the one that staff was happiest with. And we'll certainly provide this to the CIP subcommittee for final approval. So tonight, our recommendation is to authorize the purchase of the equipment for the fitness court project at Los Nietos Park, to authorize the director of purchasing to issue a PO, to accept the proposal for installation, and to award the contract for installation to Engineered Installation Solutions. That concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I talked to Noe earlier about this with regards that we know that you're going to use that piece of grass, but I don't know how much of it you're going to use or what's going to be left over. So I was just suggesting to Noe if we can probably, just cut that grass, cut it out and either put some, fake grass or put something different, only because if they're going to cut the lawn, any shavings that are they're just going to go on top of the, the fitness track.
Make it
So
all concrete.
yeah, well, that's the thing. I asked Noe, so we didn't know for sure, but
Yeah,
if it's gonna be all concrete, then
we can certainly look at that. And
yeah, only if it's not,
and if it's feasible and within hopefully the project cost, we can certainly add that to the project.
Some people can just use their speed ladders or do different little things on the little.
And excuse me, Gus, I had a question. I had told you I went to Paramount Park to see their fitness section. And it was really good. They got a lot of use out of it. The maintenance, is there going to be costs? Obviously there'll be costs, but did we look into the maintenance of, power washing the equipment and when we're going to be doing that?
Yeah, so as part of the installation, we're going to receive a manual and training from the installation partner that'll show our staff how to properly take care of that equipment. Right now, I know that daily blowing of the leaves is part of the maintenance, pressure washing on a regular basis, and then sanitizing equipment. That'll be done internally by our Parks and Recreation staff.
Thank you.
Let's have a question also. What's the lifespan of this?
So we have a structural warranty of 25 years. Other components do have a smaller warranty, like the actual bars. Those have a warranty of 5 years. From our experience, we do know that this is a piece of equipment that will last some time. It's been actually installed in several other parks and areas of the United States, and they've lasted well over 10 years.
Right.
Obviously, the material's not metal for rust and stuff like that.
So I believe it's a galvanized steel. Not too sure on that, but I know that the specs were provided in the staff report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gus. All right. A motion for the approval of item number 15.
Move.
I second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? So ordered. Item number 16, approval of agreement between the City of Santa Fe Springs and California State University Long Beach for student intern program. I'd like to call upon Librarian 3, Deborah Raya.
Thank you. Okay. Santa Fe Springs City Library would like to partner with Cal State Long Beach to provide graduate students in the teacher librarian credential program with valuable fieldwork experience working with students and families. Interns are required to have a bachelor's degree and a teaching credential. This internship is the final step in their teacher librarian credential program and helps prepare them for employment in the library field. Working under our Librarian 2 for Children's Services, each intern will spend 45 hours assisting in the design, implementation, and assessment of our services to children. This is a non-monetary agreement and has no financial impact to the general fund. The agreement allows for additional paraprofessional staff to serve community residents. So our recommendation is to approve the library education student field placement agreement between the City of Santa Fe Springs and California State University Long Beach. Have any questions? No?
Sounds good. Thank you. Is there a motion for the approval of item number 16?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? So ordered. Item number 17, purchase of one towable concrete mixing trailer by awarding an order to Cartaway Concrete Systems. I'd like to call upon Director of Purchasing, Paul Martinez.
Good evening, Honorable Council. Wow. This item is a budgeted council approved item. It's a 1 3/4 yard towable concrete trailer that will be used by Public Works by the various maintenance divisions. When the fiscal year 21-22 budget was being prepared, PDQ was used to quantify a budget number. When the time came to solicit bids, the manufacturer Cartaway was contacted to locate other local distributors. It was discovered that Cartaway does not work through dealerships, but has municipal sales divisions that sells directly to municipalities. This item is under budget and recommend purchasing direct from Cartaway based on the bid they submitted in comparison to PDQ's bid. Are there any questions on item 17?
Now we gotta just find a batch plant,
Find the what?
a batch planting for the 1 yard trailer.
Yeah, I hear they have to drive a ways to get it.
And we don't have a mixer. This is the first one.
No, they have a smaller
They
one,
have small one?
and I guess what they've been doing is renting from PDQ when
Oh,
they
okay.
have bigger
Yeah,
jobs.
this could be our own. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion for approval, item number 17?
I'll move.
I'll
I second.
Okay.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? So ordered. Item number 18, purchase of one advanced rider sweeper by awarding an order to Nilfisk by piggybacking off the pricing of GSA industrial contract number GS30F-001DA. Director of Purchasing Services, Paul Martinez.
I'll move. I'm just kidding.
All right, me. This is another council-approved budget item. This is a rider sweeper. It's a small sit-on street sweeper, if you will. The unit can be transported by trailer to job sites. It's small enough to sweep sidewalks on freeway overpasses and tough enough to pick up mud and rock on public works job site cleanups. This item is also under budget and recommend purchasing from Nilfix for the GSA contract pricing reflected in your agenda packet. Are there any questions on item 18?
Move.
Thank you.
Second.
I
Those in-
second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? So ordered. Item number 19, purchase of one new 2022 Chevrolet Traverse by awarding an order to George Chevrolet. Paul Martinez, one more time.
This is also a council-approved budget item. This vehicle purchase is designated for administrative use and police services. The vehicle is a Chevrolet Traverse, which you said, and is under budget and request award to George Chevrolet based on the received bids in your agenda packet. Any questions?
Is there any difference in why we go like from Chevy to Ford, like Explorer to?
So it's my understanding the last three civilian, what do you call it, Explorers, all had transmission problems. So we tried one Traverse, which I think the city manager may be driving now. And it was tested around with the different departments and there seemed to be a like to it. It's less expensive than the Explorer. So I think that's how we ended up going that route.
Good. Good job, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it.
I'll move.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So ordered. Item number 20, nurse educator and quality improvement coordinator, authorization to advertise a request for proposals. I'd like to call upon our fire chief, Brent Hayward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'll try and make this fairly brief. The Department of Fire and Rescue has a nurse educator as required by the Department of Health Services for the County of Los Angeles. Every fire agency in the county who provides EMS or paramedic service is required to have both a medical director, which is a doctor, so that they can prescribe our controlled substance medications like Valium, Dazolam, and some of the other controlled substances. And the departments are also supposed to have a nurse educator, quality improvement individual. In the 30 years that I've been in the business, we have always had one contracted. Our last nurse educator has been with us for 15 years. And she's announced that she's intending to retire in December. And so we are now on the lookout for a company or a nurse educator to step in and fill that role. I forgot I had this. Just hit the button. The nurse educator comes in several times a month with all of our individual shifts, and she provides lessons plans, quality improvement numbers, data collection. They review 100% of all our EMS reports for accuracy, just for legal and liability purposes. And they go over these stats and issues with our paramedics. She does also associate training with our EMTs at the same time. EMT services provided by Rio Hondo College and one of our training portals, Target Solutions. But as a courtesy, she always brings the EMTs in to see what the paramedics are doing so that they understand when they're called upon to do certain tasks or get certain things, they can perform. As you can see, our different training, advanced life support mannequins, the one in the middle is a fully automated breeze, heart rate, intubate, IV, amputate, you name it, about $50,000. And she provides the instructions and hands-on training for that to keep our medics up to speed. Every 2 years, our EMTs and paramedics must be recertified by the state of California and Department of Health Services. Next slide. So along with this service that she provides, she also helps us in our annual audit with the Department of Health Services. It's a very painstaking process. They go over every department with a fine-tooth comb, obviously for good reason, because we're performing life-saving measures using advanced airways, cardiac monitoring, and definitely controlled substances on a regular basis with our patients. Let me see if I can do this. What will this individual continue to do? They'll provide continuing education for medics at 48 hours per medic per year. They also train the EMTs who have 24 hours of the required continuing ed per year. They review 100% of all our medical documentation for accuracy. They attend all our DHS meetings. They review the new policies that come out on a continual basis with COVID. We've had no less than 15 policies that function or fluctuate from day to day as to what they can and can't do, the drugs they can and can't administer, and how they treat patients. And so a big part of that person's job this year was helping him implement those policies. Provides the hands-on training and also is a liaison to our clinical hospital for training. If individuals need additional trauma center work or other help, they can either go to PIH or Harbor UCLA or any of the other hospitals that we have an association with. They prepare and participate with the DHS yearly audit so that we can continue as an EMS provider. They develop the quality improvement plans for our department. And they also do field audits of our paramedics. This nurse educator that we've had for 15 years, 3 times a month rides out with our paramedics, observes them in the field environment, makes recommendations, evaluates their paperwork and performance. And lastly, just ensures the excellent paramedic and EMT relationships with our hospitals and our community. As you all know, you've got the phone calls. I'm very, very proud of our paramedics and EMTs. We run a really tight ship. And I think it shows, and part of it has to do with our nurse educator. Sorry. Again, she's retiring as far as a fiscal impact. It's a yearly budgeted item in our EMS paramedics budget. That number was approved for $67,000 this year. Going out to RFP and seeing what some of the other departments are getting back, we actually think we may be able to do a little bit better than that this year. But bottom line is we're hoping to find somebody by allowing us to go to RFP is to find another individual or firm that's going to continue the tradition of fine paramedic and EMT service here in Springs. That concludes my report. I can answer any questions if you like.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Do we have a motion for approval of item number 20?
I'll move.
I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? So ordered. Item number 21, Southern California Edison owned streetlight retrofit, approval of fixture replacement rate agreement. I'd like to call upon Public Works Director Noe Nerethi.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, Council. So if you recall, a few months back, we actually did a study on our street lighting, and we looked at converting from LED or from high pressure sodium, which we currently have, to LED. The study did find that there's a lot of benefits to doing that. So what you have before you today is phase 1 of this process. We have 3 different street light systems that we'll talk about. The first one, though, is Edison-owned street lights. And we have approximately 382 of those lights. This first phase will be no upfront cost to us. It'll be funded through energy savings from changing from the high pressure sodium to the LED. So the technical term is called Schedule LS1 Option E Streetlight LED Retrofit with Edison. That's the agreement that you have in front of you. Currently, they're quoting roughly a 6 to 8 month lead time until they start the construction, which I'll go into timing on my next slide. As you can see, in the first 20 years, you get a savings of just under $16,000. That helps pay for the installation of those lights. After the 20 years, we get the full $23,000 in savings. So again, it's a 3-phase process. This is probably the simplest because we signed an agreement with Edison, and then they essentially change the fixtures. There's no upfront cost to us because we realize the savings and we pay it back through that savings. That's the most simplest. let's talk about the other two different phases that'll happen after. And we've talked a little bit about this. We still have to come back to you to talk about the financing of both of these next two systems. So the phase two is city-owned lights. So as you can see by the numbers, we have roughly about 3,000 lights that we own as compared to the 382 that Edison owns. Phase three is a little bit more complicated. It's an older system called a series circuit. It's basically run its course and is now obsolete. You're talking about another 360 or so lights in the residential area. I'll show you a map here in terms of what that means in a map. I think it'll be more clear to you. Obviously, phase three is going to take a lot longer because we have to design that. We have to go out to bid, get a designer to design that. It's a whole new system, right? We're basically going to remove the existing system and look at a whole new system. All new lights, all new conduit, all new wires. We'll look at spacing because the spacing that is there now is probably from an older lighting standard. So we have that option now. In phase two, what we have to do is we have to quantify the number of lights and where they're at. So we're currently doing that with an inventory, but essentially we're gonna have three different type of lights. We're gonna have one, a residential light that's an LED, another one that's like a commercial street LED, and the third one would be more like an arterial street LED. But we need to tell the contractor how many of those we have and where they're at before we go out to bid. So let me see, hopefully I can walk you through this as best as you can. I couldn't put the whole city on one slide, north-south. So we kind of cut it in half. So if you look at the screen, let's look at the left side first. And that's north of Telegraph. Okay, so the red lights are the lights that are Edison owned. So the agreement before you today would essentially change all those red lights. And this is only the residential. I'm not, but this is a good example of the three different systems that we're dealing with. So everything that you see in red, you'll be able to change out with the Edison light. Everything that you see in yellow is a city-owned light. The bad part is you'll see everything you see in maroon or magenta, depending on your color. That's where we call the series lighting, where we have to do all new lighting. If you look on the right side of the screen, you'll see south of Telegraph. So there's a lot of red there, but there's also a lot of magenta. Everything left of Orenday between the freeway, between Telegraph and Florence. And then also that little area on the other side of Florence between, the other side of Orenday, between Florence and Telegraph and the cemetery, all that is going to take a lot longer. So when you go back to timing, these are all best case scenario now, right? So best case scenario is if we sign the agreement, we send it to Edison, we're probably talking about any time between March and April that Edison will turn those lights from a high pressure sodium to an LED light, okay? Now, for the yellow lights, the ones that we're going to switch out for the city lights, there's 3,000. So they're just not in this residential area. They're also all the way down south. Okay, so it takes a lot longer. We're looking at, we have to go out, bid that out, design. You're probably talking about any time between May or June or July to get those lights done. Not bad so far, okay? The problem is going to be those purple magenta areas. You're talking about probably a year after SCE does theirs, that those lights will be changed. So I want to bring that to your attention now, because obviously we'll get more details as we sign this agreement and get closer to the construction, but we want to try to minimize that time, because what's going to happen if we change those SCE lights and we don't change the other lights for a year? We're going to get complaints. Right now, there's only so much time we can tell them, hey, we have a plan, 4 or 5 months from now, they can get them changed. Maybe that might be satisfactory. But when you're going to talk about a year from one neighborhood to another, all that magenta area, they'll still have lights, but they'll have the old lights that are there now, not the new lights. So we're going to continue to try to work on shortening that window, trying to see what we can do to be able to do that. So you're looking basically at all of next year, starting roughly February or April, when this first phase will start, and then we'll start doing the other phases, okay? But if you want to go into, have more questions out or more detail, I'm happy to sit with you individually so you can look at that. But that is a concern when we first laid this out, is you'd have that big gap in that timing. Now, we could tell Edison, hey, why don't you wait a little bit longer, right? Okay. Now, that could be good or bad, because right now Edison's saying it's 6 to 8 months. I think about a year ago, Kevin was saying it was anywhere between 12 to 18 months. So it really depends on their time. When it's your time, you don't want to lose your spot in line, so to say, but you also don't want to do it too early. So we're kind of mindful of that. As we get closer to doing phase 2, we're going to check in on the schedule and revisit that, because we want to get the majority of the lights as best as we can in a closer time frame. That would be the goal. Again, today is just phase 1. It's the Edison light, but I think we need to look at it as an overall project. We're trying to change all of our lights to LEDs, and that is the picture that we're bringing for you today, and that's one that we'll continue to update you on. Happy to take any questions.
So I know we talked about this about what, 2 months ago, we talked about the changing the old lights out, and we were worried that Edison was going to take actually longer than what we would. So now it's kind of roles are reversed. Is there any way how to get the lights that we need on the what is it? I only see red and yellow. I'm colorblind, so I don't see them.
No, you're correct. The red and yellow. So the red is Edison, the yellow is city. The ones that are in the purple area are the areas we need to redesign. So that's a different now, right?
And
It's
that's
like-
what's going to take us a year to get it
that's the
designed.
year. That's the year. So that the problem really is not the yellow and the non-purple, right? It's just a matter of doing an inventory, putting together the bid package, and then going out to bid, and then they can essentially they're changing the bulb, if you want to look at it that way. Okay. That one I'm not as worried about. The one in purple, we definitely have some concerns about, because it's a whole redesign. And you're talking about new service points. I'm not too technical, but you got to coordinate that with Edison. You got to know where your service points come first before you can start the design.
Edison wouldn't just take over those. How about Edison taking over those lights while they're doing their?
No, we own the lights. So what would be the purpose? There'll be no benefit for us for giving them those lights, right? That we own the lights. It's just we need to coordinate with them. The service point would be one of the hurdles we need to look at in terms of timing, number one, on top of just bringing in a designer, number two. But we did want to share that timing wise. Obviously, we have a financing issue too that we haven't talked about. We have to figure that out as well. But if everything goes right, you still have a year, and that's if everything goes right.
And years back, they had a program where we were able to take over the Edison lights. And some cities took advantage and others didn't. So, I mean, if we lose our lights, of course, they take control of what they want to do. So, and I think that program might come back. So we just got to look into it to see if we can take over those lights, because it is 400 lights, So all we got to do is just, hopefully if it's out there, we can take advantage of it.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of lights as compared to other cities that didn't own any of their lights. So a lot of cities did take advantage of it because they wanted the control of the light as opposed to relying on Edison. I think they got overwhelmed with the number of cities that wanted to participate, and that's why they pulled back on offering that. It is something we can look into in the future to do that. It is a small amount of lights considering the total that we have.
Noe, I think that we should communicate this with the residents and let them know the time frame rather than, just be proactive and let them know so that we do our part. And even if they don't like it, at least they know what's going on.
Yeah, as we get closer, let's say at the beginning of next year, as we get closer to the timeframes that are more known, yeah, we would like to publicize that on our website, work with the social media people internal, so we can at least spread the word on that. And again, we're trying to minimize that time. Nobody wants a long time between the time the Edison goes in and the last light that goes in for us, right? You want to try to minimize that. Again, there's still lighting out there, right? It's just not as nice as the new lighting.
I think the good thing is that lights will be there, just like you said, some will be nicer before the other ones. Kind of what you and Robert have put together during the CIP timeline, the start of a project, the progress of a project, the potential, conclusion of a project. I think if the public saw that that would be, it's great for all of us and also for the public to see. They can see an actual timeline, because it takes time. There's a lot of work, and of course, finances. And then also I know that the series lighting is going to be the one that's going to be the most critical, because of the nature of that series. But could all these three different lighting components be done simultaneously, or do we have to do one before the other?
The first one, Edison has to do that.
They have to do theirs first.
That they own those.
Okay.
That's why the agreement is coming to you today.
Okay.
In theory, you could do 2 and 3, but then that would, if we did phase 2 and 3 together, we would be pushing back phase 2 until phase 3 caught up. So we think that there's some benefits if phase 2 is ready to do that first, because of the additional benefits the lighting would bring. But we could hold back on that. It's just a matter of policy.
Do you know if when they're retrofitting it, we're going to be dark in certain neighborhoods at any point in time, or is that going to be a quick turnaround? With
For the ones that they actually change the fixture, no, they do it same day. So whatever you touch that day, you got to put back the light. They definitely will have issues when we do the series. At some point, they're going to build the new, right? And then they'll turn off the old and then turn on the new. But there may be some time, minimal time, where there's nothing there. We try to minimize that or bring in temporary lighting to satisfy that requirement.
There's no way to connect the series lighting to our other lighting, that through conduit, through, is all one area series lighting, there's no other type of
Yeah,
lighting?
so you have all the purple areas of the series lighting areas. So just think of it as your house, right? An old wiring in your house, 1940s wiring or 1960s wiring in this case, when the city started. So the system is beyond obsolete now. So there's really no benefits to salvaging the conduit or the wires.
No, I'm talking about
Poles.
updating, because we are going to update some of our other that isn't series lighting into LED lighting, correct?
It's just changing the fixture. So the power, the wiring, no change, just the fixture change. For the series, it's a complete demo in a new system.
So it's new wiring, new conduit.
Everything new. Service, starting with the service point. So to your point, Councilmember Rodriguez, we will do this at the beginning of the year as we get confirmation with the timing from Edison. Like you said, going into this, we thought they were going to be longer. The last quotes, they were going to be 12 to 18 months. And now that we sat down with them on this agreement, they said, no, we've actually had more crews available now. Again, that's pending a fire, a windstorm, a rain, who knows with Edison, right? So they're quoting us that now. The sooner we get to that date, then we'll continue to reevaluate the timing. And we're happy to share that. Obviously, when we start this, we need to definitely share that timing so that everybody knows going into this.
Thank you, Noah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, good news. Okay, do we have a motion for the approval of item number 21?
I'll move.
Second?
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So ordered. Item number 22, second amendment to the city manager employment agreement. I'd like to call upon City Attorney Ivy. Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This is just a brief report. Per your direction, following the performance evaluation, I've prepared the second amendment to the city manager employment agreement. The only change is to the paid leave section to increase the amount of accrual from 140 hours to 168 hours, retroactive to March 1st. All other terms will remain the same.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for the approval of item number 22?
I'll move.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? So ordered. Item number 23, resolution number 9729 and 9730, opposing Senate Bill number 9 and Senate Bill 10. I'd like to call Director of Planning, Wayne Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is opposing Senate Bill 9 and 10, and this will be a joint presentation. Next, please, Chef. Oops. Okay, so we all know that there's a need for housing. The governor has made that quite clear. And certainly there is a need. So what you see on the screen is the number of units that is required. It originates from HCD. They give that number to SCAG, and SCAG does the allocation. It's essentially a regional housing needs assessment, or RENA. So when you look at the bottom, this is the number of units. I can't see the bloody thing from me. So,
Wait, this one.
now I got it.
Look at, wait.
Okay, cool. So for the total, these are the number of units that's required for the SCAG region. And essentially, it's saying that we need 1,341 units, 827. And those are housing units. And that includes Los Angeles, Ventura County, Orange County, different counties. But those numbers are distilled even further with the various cities. And for the city of Santa Fe Springs, our number is 952. And that's broken down into very low income, moderate income, and above moderate income. So every year, the legislature have bills to advance housing. And while some of those bills have good intentions, sometimes they can have undesirable impacts. So two of those bills are SB 9 and SB 10. Maribel will do the presentation on SB 9 because it really is the one that has more of a detrimental impact on cities as opposed to SB 10. So, Maribel, you want to?
Good evening, Mayor Mora and members of the City Council. And of course, Wayne just said, I get the most detrimental, it's the most complicated. And so I will take on that today. As part of your packet today, you have a copy of SB 9. Tonight, I will just summarize what the bill proposes. Senate Bill 9 was introduced by Senator Tony Atkins in December 2020 and last amended in April and is currently in the Assembly appropriation stage. This bill contains two critical components. The first is ministerial approval of qualifying duplex units within single-family residential zones. And the second is ministerial approval of qualifying urban lot splits to create two parcels of at least 1,200 square feet within single-family residential zones. And what ministerial means is that cities will not have oversight and there will be a loss of due process and public hearings for the community. All right. We will not be able to exercise discretion to deny any project, even if it meets all of SB 9's basic requirements. Also, the city cannot consider any aesthetics, neighborhood character, or other subjective factors. And again, the city may not hold hearings on any qualifying applications. Basically, there will be a loss of local control and decision-making for us. As of today, more than 175 cities have submitted letters of opposition since the bill's introduction. I have our letter ready for the mayor's signature. SB 9 preempts local zoning. It limits local authority to impose objective design standards. And this would allow also for full tear down, including the garage. The city cannot impose standards that would physically preclude construction of up to 2 units. There's no setback required for existing structure, and the city may require 4-foot side and rear setbacks for existing structures. All right. And now, in a nutshell, SB 9 also increases parking issues. If you know, we have a parking crisis here in our city. With this bill, they will require 1 parking space permit unless the parcel is a half a mile from a transit corridor or major transit stop, or a car share vehicle like Uber or Lyft within 1 block. But also, this reference in the bill only mentions a car share vehicle within 1 block, but does not mention a car share parking space. So a clever developer could park a car share permanently on the property or on the street in front of it and can argue that no other parking is required because that is his 1 parking spot. It also allows for up to 8 units on a single family lot, and developers will not be required to pay for infrastructure improvements. Environmental review under CEQA will not be required. Loss of due process and public hearing for the community. And nowhere does this address the housing affordability issues we all have. This will effectively eliminate single-family zoning in California. If passed, this could affect nearly 7 million California homeowners who have scrimped and saved to purchase the California dream, a single-family home. If SB 9 and 10 are approved, California would be following in the footsteps of Oregon and the city of Minneapolis, who both got rid of single-family housing 2 years ago. Thank you. Now I'll send it back to Wayne to review SB 10.
As you can see, most of the detriment is with SB 9. SB 10 isn't as much of an issue. What it would do, it would allow local governments to approve multi-family buildings of up to 10 market rate units on lots that are currently zoned for single-family housing only, with no limit on the number of parcels used for this purpose, and it will be in any neighborhood and allow governments to override voter-approved initiative or zoning. But the critical issue with this, as it states, it would allow local government. So you being the local government, if you choose to adopt an ordinance that would allow this to take place, to allow for up to 10 market rate units on single parcel lots, then that could be the impact. So again, with SB 10, it would be up to the individual municipality to adopt such an ordinance. So we included it in the opposition because technically, yes, we're Santa Fe Springs, but if a adjoining city, we share a border with Whittier. Let's say Whittier chooses to adopt the ordinance that would allow for up to 10 units on a single parcel, single family residential parcel. And we are in a close border with Whittier, residential here, and with residential on both sides. But if Whittier adopted this, then you could have that 10 units abutting you. So again, it's important to note that with SB 10, it would be up to the individual municipality. So the focus really is on all of the reasons that Mary Bell has enumerated as to why most cities, 175 plus, are not in favor of SB 9 and 10, because combined together, they'll have that detrimental impact. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have a motion for the approval of item number 23?
I'll move.
I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? So ordered. Item number 24, approval of personnel modifications. I'd like to call upon Director of Finance, Travis Hickey.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. We're back again with a continuing series of updates on our personnel lineup based on originally what was included in our budget back in June. So we have a number of positions that are included here. Some are just updates to job classifications or adopting ones where we hadn't had them. And some of the others include adjustments to the salary table based on the salary table that was included in the agenda report. I wasn't going to go through all the individual positions, but I'm happy to do that if you'd like, or take any questions on any specifics there.
I'll move.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So ordered.
you.
Thank you, Travis. Okay, we are ready for executive team reports. I'd like to call upon Public Works Director Noe Negrete.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry. You can hear me now, right? Okay, so I just want to give an update on the Town Center Plaza. Go ahead and run it forward. Next one. So as you can see in the video, a lot of work has been accomplished since we last met over 2 weeks ago. Curb and gutter on the interior was poured. The ramp footings for the ADA ramps were also poured. As you can see here, we're started removing the curb and gutter on Albertus Telegraph. Concrete will start to be poured tomorrow and Thursday. By the end of the week, all the concrete will be poured on the outside. So looking at that lane closure ending will be the next week. There's some progress photos here that will show you some of the progress that the site has made. You can see now the perimeter, the outline of the curb and gutter as you walk on site, the medians, as well as the planter areas, the monument wall corner, some ramps, the monument wall pedestals, decorative veneer is already being installed on there. And coming up, you should be able to see a picture of the curb and gutter and the sidewalk that was demolished on Albertus. I want to thank those residents on that street for all the noise there. Again, that should be formed up and poured starting tomorrow. And again, thank you for your patience. Project is proceeding on schedule. Happy to take questions on that. And last but least, the playground over at the GVNC, the Gus Flasco Neighborhood Center, was removed last weekend. That was the canopy and all the amenities that were inside consisting of that playground. Staff is now working on the irrigation, restoring the irrigation from 10 years ago. And then we'll be throwing some seed to grow grass back in that area. Those planter box trees will be returned back here to City Hall. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now Director of Planning, Wayne Morrell. Really? Okay, Director of Police Services, Dino Torres.
Hi, good evening, City Council. I have two reports for you today. Can I go to the next slide, please? The first is in regard to our parking enforcement at the schools. The last meeting I brought to you information that the schools were about to open. The first that opened up were Santa Fe High and Rancho Santa Gertrudis, and they opened their doors last week. Here's a few pictures of our PSOs and public safety staff. They're handing out information to parents regarding parking and rules of the road. At the request of Councilmember Zamora, we did do it translated into Spanish also. And the Little Lake schools will open tomorrow and we'll be there performing the same task. Next slide, please. So the second item involves updating the graphics on our PSO vehicles. it's been over a decade, so prior to my tenure as director, that they've been provided a fresh professional look. I want to thank Noah's staff and Public Works for making this happen. We anticipate that all the vehicles will be updated within the next few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, oh, Wayne's back. Come on up.
Sorry, and I'll be more than quick. Nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Wayne. Awesome.
Oh, Wayne.
Okay, now, Fire Chief Brent Hayward.
Yep. Wayne has left the building.
Good evening again, everybody. Just a couple of quick brief updates. I'll give my usual COVID numbers for the county. Now we're going to take a look back from the last 2 weeks. 14 days ago, the county was at 5.61%. We're actually starting to see a little bit of a decline and peak in testing, and it's come down to about 4.4%. The hospital rate average per day in the whole county of Los Angeles for beds related to COVID health needs are at 1,653. Last meeting, that number was 4 times as high as it was back in October. Right now, we're about 1.5 times higher since 14 days ago. So the numbers of positive tests are still there, but the hospitalizations are coming down. And so we're going to see these two lines meet here, hopefully in a couple of weeks, and then start to do that decline, knock on, sorry, plastic. 14 days ago, the average deaths in the county were at 5. That number is still the same today. For Santa Fe Springs, we have 3,086 positive tests. And again, that's from day 1 of counting. Over the last 14 days, though, we've had 96 additional positive tests within the city. Next slide. I want to bring you up to speed on where our 2 crews are at. We have 2 crews. The green OES state vehicle is up at the Dixie Fire, and our red XLE teams, we call them, they're in at the Monument Fire in Trinity County. They got diverted about 5 days ago when they saw a shift of fire near the Dixie. It's currently at 119,000 acres. Our guys are really working tight with doing a lot of things that they've never really had to do in the past. And one of the things that they're doing is they're tying in 9,000 feet of hose in between areas or 150 foot, 100-foot trees that are 100 foot wide, and they tie in these lines, and then they wait for the fire to come to them. They put up the best fight that they can, and they retreat. They often have to end up retreating. The picture on the bottom actually is kind of sad. Our guys were in Dixie and doing structure protection in Greenville, and they have made a lot of friends and rapport with people in Greenville. And 2 days after they had left that area to go to other areas, and we're not talking just Santa Fe Springs, but we're talking hundreds of units were diverted. The next day, Greenville was gone. And so that was a little sad. The guys were a little upset about it. And but we don't always win them all, but we put up one heck of a fight, I'll tell you that. So next slide. This is not always a fun thing to present to you, but at the Monument Fire, one of our XLE units, this is our Santa Fe Springs unit. They were on a day off, an operational period off, where they're put up in a hotel and the crews and go to established restaurants to eat. They were in one of these established restaurants, and somebody came into the restaurant and said, "Hey, anybody from Santa Fe Springs here?" One of the guys said, "Yeah, what's up?" They said, "Well, your rig's on fire." They had a small electrical fire that started up under the front dash of the unit. A Cal fire apparatus happened to be next to it, and driving by was another unit. They broke the driver's side window, extinguished it with a dry chem extinguisher, did the best they could, but the front windshields bubbled. We have a lot of dash damage, and certain electrical components are bad. Chief Chad Van Metren was tasked with, within 24 hours, he had a reserve rig up to him. They had that rig on a tower, a tow vehicle, and it was back the next day, and Chad was at work the next morning. We flew him home out of Reading. And just so you know, the flight from Reading into LAX is about $178. So we didn't get hit with the inside 21-day problem. But the rig's at a shop right now. It's being repaired. We put a claim in with the state of California on this. We don't know how that one will go, but we're in the process of getting it fixed, and we hope that it'll be back online pretty soon. It's a good rig. Next slide, last slide. So it looks bad, but it actually is positive news. While one of the crews was on their way back, they were just on the 99 freeway out of Sacramento area. They travel in convoys of 5. And when they travel in convoys of 5, they can only go about 60 or 65. It's a 2-lane road and a lot of busy traffic. They just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and an individual on a motorcycle passed the whole team at a very high rate of speed, and then lost control, hit a vehicle, and ended up where you see him now. 2 individuals, the guy in the left-hand side, upper left-hand corner, and another guy standing behind him were on a Kings County unit. They had 2 people in a vehicle. Their whole EMS system involves getting that cardboard splint off their rig and a cell phone and calling 911 for their own private paramedics. This guy couldn't have ended up in a better place. He had a whole team of paramedics and all their equipment on him in 1 minute. And so they were able to stabilize him, stabilize his spinal, get an IV started, call in an airlift, and had him transported within 30 minutes, and he's doing well. So a little positive news out of all that week, and that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Director of Finance, Travis Hickey.
Good evening again. I just wanted to give the council a quick update. I think I mentioned it before, but back in October, the city hired a financial consultant to assist the city in reviewing our 457 plan, our deferred compensation plans. And so we're moving forward with changes to those plans. Notice that the city has 4 plans. Well, it's really 1 plan, but 4 providers: Lincoln, Nationwide, ICMA, and CalPERS. They're kind of all happening in different phases. The first one is Lincoln, which is our largest plan, and notices were mailed out to participants. So in advance of that, our fire rescue department is many of the Lincoln participants come from fire rescue. So myself, along with the consultant, did a presentation to their association membership on August 6th, and quite a good question and answer session we went through with them. We're working on scheduling 2 more additional meetings at Town Center Hall that will be open to all employees to question and answer period. So the first round of changes will involve kind of the funds, your fund lineup within the plan. And so participants won't have to do anything. If they want to make changes, they can do that. Otherwise, the changes will happen automatically. But we're just doing our best to get the word out as much as possible. Unfortunately, it will also affect our retirees. We don't have a mechanism to send out a mass mailing to all retirees. They get the notices from the plan. They have their contact information. And I did receive a couple of phone calls and emails from them that I've been working with them as well. So certainly, if you have any questions, you can refer them to us, and we can help provide the information and answer their questions, hopefully. So, like I said, we're going to be hosting a couple of sessions over the next 3 to 4 weeks. You'll probably see that in email, but I'll make sure you're aware of those as well. So that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
Travis.
Park and Recreation Services Manager, Gus Hernandez.
Thank you once again, Mr. Mayor and honorable members of the City Council. On August 6th, the Family and Human Services Division held the annual Back to School Backpack Program, where 120 backpacks were distributed to Santa Fe Springs school-age residents in grades 1 through 12. Due to the rising cases in COVID-19, the backpacks were distributed in a drive-through fashion at the GVNC parking lot. Backpacks were provided by the Santa Fe Springs Rotary Club, and school supplies were provided by local city businesses. Support from these companies and individuals were monetary and in-kind school supplies. We actually had 21 different donors, and the Family and Human Services Division raised over $8,200 for this event. Donors will be receiving a personal thank you letter from the mayor expressing gratitude for their generous contributions. And we'd also like to thank our city council members for their assistance with the distribution of school supplies. Next, we have our Fiestas Padres event. And so this year, the event will be held on Friday, September 10th at Los Nietos Park. And again, given the rise in COVID-19 cases, we will require registration for this event as we expect several thousand in attendance. General admission registration is free, but will be required to ensure that the venue does not exceed capacity and people can space apart properly. We also want to take contact information down in the event that we have to work with public health should we have to do contact tracing. Resident priority registration will begin on Thursday, August 19th, and non-resident registration, if space is available, will open on September 1st. And additionally, if space is available, we will be taking walk-up registration to ensure that we fill the event to its maximum capacity. Staff will designate spots in the grass area, and those spots will be available on a first-come, first-served basis to the registered attendees. Those registered attendees will be encouraged to bring their own lawn chairs or blankets. And this year's event will feature the state of Zacatecas, and the headlining band is La Sonora Dinamita. Here's a quick layout of the event here. So a little bit different layout than what we had for Independence Day, but we will have the stage off of Broadage Street facing south. We will mark the grass area to ensure that people can properly space apart. Similar to what we did for Independence Day, we will have an area for our kid zone as well. We'll have food trucks. There'll be 3 entrances and exits off of the main streets of that park. And then a staple for this event, as it's been in the past, is the Bomberos Beer Garden, which will be making a return this year. So we want to thank firefighters that are putting that together. But all in all, we're hoping for a great Fiestas Patrias event on September 10th. And then finally, over this past weekend, 7 of our aquatic staff became certified in lifeguard instructor training. So we now have 7 individuals from our aquatic staff that can not only teach lifeguard training, but they can also teach first aid and CPR to the community. So we want to congratulate these folks, and certainly we'll be providing more first aid and CPR classes to the community. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Gus. All right. Good stuff. Okay, appointments to boards, committees, and commissions. Councilmember Sarno,
Having it tonight, sir.
Councilmember Trujillo,
Tonight, thank you.
Councilmember Zamora.
I have one. I want to appoint AJ Hayes to the Heritage Arts Advisory Committee.
Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez,
And at this time, Mr. Mayor.
and I have none. All right, comments, Councilmember Sarno.
I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet, but welcome back the kids for school again. The fall is upon us. Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, it's all gonna come very fast. And just want to wish everybody stay safe out there and keep doing a good job. Thank you, guys.
Councilmember Trujillo.
Short and sweet just as well. Just so happy everything's starting to open up and hopefully it stays that way. And that's it. Have a great week. See you guys in 2 weeks.
Member Zamora?
I just want to ask for, prayers for our teachers, staff, faculty, administrators, board members, parents, students. I know they're starting here in our Little Lake School District, and of course, Rancho Santa Gertrudis. We just want to make sure that, hey, that God put a hedge of protection over them. That's it.
Mayor Pro Tem Rodriguez?
I also want to welcome our kids back to school. I'm so excited to have them back and you can see all the excitement in their faces. So welcome back. And the Parks and Rec, I was so happy to be involved in their training, and congratulations on all their hard work, because they do so much in our community. And our movie nights, I mean, we've just had a great time. Eddie, Edwin, thank you for always being there and making sure that everything's running smoothly. And I wanted to give a shout out to LA CADA. We had 4 of our residents go in from alcoholism to mental illness and drug addiction. And so they do a really good job by taking them in and giving them assessments and getting them into the right program. So I want to thank LA CADA, and just be safe and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and then, like Gus had mentioned, we're thanking our sponsors for the backpack program. Kids are back in school. We unfortunately have a lot of needy kids, but they got their backpack and they're ready to go. Also, our city received a $3.3 million from our Congresswoman Linda Sanchez. So I'm sure we're going to be putting that to good use. So that money was very much appreciated. And I'm glad to see that, our city, we're moving forward. Yes, we're going through a pandemic. We've had a couple of hiccups with cases going up. Chief, thank you for the updates. We just got to hang in there, but we're progressing forward. Good to see that I come from aquatics, so I'm glad to see that, we have our aquatic program being built back up again. We used to be a training center a few years ago, and hopefully we'll get to that point again. But we're moving forward. Just everybody, please stay safe. Those zooming in, thank you for participating with us. As always, Chief, your crew, wish them the best when we come back home safely. And thank you all. We are now adjourned, 7:30. Good night, everybody.